Well, greetings, earthlings. It's good to be together this morning. Thank you for being here. Benny, nice to see you. I've been missing you. Yeah, good to see you guys. We're going to be in 1 Peter chapter 4 today, so if you'll make your way there if you have a paper Bible or an electronic one. You know, I have a complaint. There's just not enough Olympic coverage out there. Okay, so I got to confess that I have been all my life. I've been an Olympic nut. It just seems like there's nothing like it to me, and so I remember being 10 years old and watching the Olympics, 1972 in Munich. You remember when the terrorists broke into the dormitory and took hostage some Israeli athletes from the wrestling team. I didn't really understand what all that was about at 10 years old, but I remember watching that and seeing those guys with their AK-47 standing on the balcony with their hoods on, and I was ignorant about all the differences at that point. About religious ideologies and all, but all I knew was, to me it was horrifying and amazing what was going on in a way, but you couldn't. Of course, there were only like 9 channels at that time to watch, to pick from, and the Olympics were only on one. If you lived in town. Yeah. I remember the time when there was only 3 or 4 channels, and a lot of you go back further than I do, but I remember getting up, and for instance on Saturday morning getting up, and Bugs Bunny came on at 6 or something like that, and I'd sit and watch the test pattern for an hour. It's just and then all of a sudden, but yeah, the Olympics were, and so, but you couldn't pry me away from the TV with a crowbar, and Mom would bring in, she'd bring in a big old bushel of purple hull peas, and we had this big hassock in the middle, in the middle of that living room, and she'd put newspaper out. She'd come in with newspapers and just flop them down, and I'd be sitting there just leaning back watching the Olympics, and I'd look at that big pile of newspaper, and I knew I had to shell purple hull peas. And but we'd cover that hassock was this big around, and I just sit there, and she'd put this big pile out here in a big old pan, and I just watch the Olympics and shell purple hull peas. And you know how your thumb stays purple for about 2 weeks after you do that? But man, nothing better than purple hull peas. Now, some of y'all that lived in the country, I guess, only had fewer channels. So Tim Woldridge said that he when he grew up, he lived so far out in the country that you had to go toward town to hunt. That sounds like something that he would say. And but now you can, if you choose to get a subscription to Olympic coverage, you can get it all day long, nonstop. You can get the judo and the taekwondo and the target shooting and the fencing and all the stuff that I never got to see when I was growing up, and it's just like overload on there. But it's a treat. It's a treat every 4 years to do that. You imagine, I mean, I can only imagine, I was so despondent when the United States boycotted the 1980 Olympics that, but I can only imagine how despondent the athletes were that had prepared for that, and put in all the time and effort and training and everything like that. So, but anyway, so I'm kind of in my element, my heyday, watching the Olympics. Also, I remember